Hey, I'm catiewahwah and you're watching The Record Review. Hey, how are you? I finally feel spring-like. We've been having a lot of sunny weather in London this week and it's been really nice, and I just hope that it doesn't all end soon. There are so many things to be excited about this month, including the return of Game of Thrones. But of course there's also a ton of great vinyl coming out this month, so let's take a little look at it. First up, it's a concept album from the Mountain Goats, Beat the Champ.
The winter's wet, and the summer's hot. Take a match in Puerto Rico. Why not?
So this is the Mountain Goats' 15th album, and they kind of have a cult following, I'd say. This whole album though is really interesting because it's all about the world of professional wrestling and the kind of legends and heroes of that world. John Darnell sings these really interesting stories. It's almost like you're sitting around a campfire. So to give you a bit of a feel for the album, one of the singles is called Stabbed to Death Outside San Juan, and that's about the story of the unsolved murder of a wrestler called Frank Goodish, aka Bruiser Brody, who was killed before a match in Puerto Rico, and so they set the scene for that, and it's really interesting. Next, a thought-provoking electronic offering from East India Youth, Culture of Volume. This is the second album from East India Youth, who is an artist called William Doyle, and it sounds quite haunting. I think it's also an open challenge to the way that the music industry is structured at the moment, which I always find quite interesting to listen to those critics. Apparently it's also an album that needs to be consumed as a whole, so I'm quite looking forward to just sitting down and listening to the whole thing at once and just absorbing it. If you prefer something a bit more guitar heavy, then you should definitely check out Nadine Shah's second album, Fast Food. Nadine Shah is a really great songwriter and composer, and she's got these brooding, gorgeous guitar riffs in her music. There's a slight PJ Harvey tinge to her vocals, so if that's the kind of music that you like, then you're gonna love her. I think some of the Fast Food albums were also pressed on red vinyl, so if you're a fan of colored vinyl, you should definitely check it out. Summer anthems abound in Toro Y Moi's What For? This is the fourth album from Toro Y Moi, and it's got a really different feel to his previous work. It's got a lot more of an indie rock influence, and it's very summery sounding. The single Empty Nesters has this real summery, swirling production value to it, and there's also a vintage yet modern feel to it, which I quite like. I also found it quite interesting that it was apparently recorded over 8 months in his home studio in Berkeley, California, so it was something that was very personal and very close to him the whole time, which is especially interesting because this is a different style of music from his previous work. Next up, the Wombats are releasing their third album, Glitterbug. You're running late with half your makeup on. Now, as soon as I heard the singles from this, I started to get flashbacks to my teens because the Wombats' debut was out when I was 16, but I just think that they've gotten better, if anything, which is quite weird because their style hasn't changed that much, I don't think. There's something that's evolved about them, but it doesn't feel unnatural. They haven't done a complete turnaround in the kind of music that they're producing. They're staying true to that uplifting indie rock, indie pop style that's fun to listen to, and they have these great, really witty music videos. They've got one about online dating, and then they've got one that I absolutely love for the single Greek Tragedy, which stars April Pearson, who you may remember as Michelle from Skins. She plays the ultimate fangirl, and it's kind of cool and creepy and really weird, and you should definitely watch it. So I'm excited to hear the rest of that album because I think they've got a really great sensibility going on right now. Passion Pit are departing from their earlier style with their third album, Kindred. Passion Pit used to be a full band, but they've gradually been whittled down to one man, Michael Angelikos, and he's made a clean break with all of the old band members, and he's going to be going on tour with an entirely new lineup for this album, which I think is really interesting because although he was the main kind of driving force behind their earlier work, I think this album is still going to be quite different from what they've done previously because now it's not a they, it's a he. Kindred is apparently going to be a very autobiographical album, and specifically dealing with Angelicos's experiences with bipolar disorder and addressing mental health in general, which is quite refreshing to see. From what I've read from early reviews, it's promising to be a more cohesive and direct album than Passion Pit's previous work, which I think is probably almost entirely down to the fact that it's now one person sort of driving it. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how this album is received and what kind of conversations it starts. Blur are making a very welcome return this month with their first studio album in 12 years, The Magic Whip.
What do you got? Mass produced in somewhere hot.
Blur haven't released a studio album since 2003, and they haven't released an album with Graham Coxon in the lineup since 1999, so that's been 16 years without that full lineup. And this is a kind of weird album for them to come back with, but I think it's quite cool. It's still absolutely identifiably Blur. They are so distinctive, not just for Damon Albarn's vocals, but also for the riffs and the production. But the Magic Whip is very influenced by Chinese and specifically Hong Kong culture. Apparently Blur was stranded in Hong Kong for 5 days when a Japanese festival they were meant to be playing was cancelled, and so they decided to book into a studio and just start writing stuff and working together, and this is the album that kind of emerged from that. Graham Coxon then worked on those recordings with the producer from Blur's first album, Stephen Street, and apparently Damon Albarn even took a trip back to Hong Kong to get more inspiration before he could finalize the lyrics for the album. So I don't know how true that is, by which I mean that I don't know how true it is that Blur really had no intention of doing an album and then came together at a random place. It would be very cool if that is true, but it also feels like one of those legends that bands kind of tell later on, and it might have been a bit more planned than that. I'm a bit shy of calling The Magic Whip a concept album because I haven't heard the whole thing, and also I'm not aware of Blur actually calling it a concept album, but it does seem very rooted in a specific place. I'm excited as well that this might mean that Blur are going to start releasing more things. We might have a bit of a Britpop revival. In any case, I'm really excited for what this whole album is going to be like, and it's good to have them back. Also, am I the only one who finds it really weird now to see Alex James not as a cheese farmer? Next, the Jonestown Massacre are releasing something a bit different with an album called Musique du film Imaginé. This album is apparently inspired by European filmmakers from the 50s and 60s, and it's meant to be a score for a film that does not exist. From what I've read, it seems to have been primarily composed by the Jonestown Massacre frontman Anton Newcomb, with a couple of guest spots. But there's quite a cool idea behind it, which is that instead of scoring an actual film, he's gone and written the music, and as you listen to the music, you're supposed to imagine the film that the music would be to. So if you're familiar with the Jonestown Massacre's other work, you'll know that this is a quite different style for them. It seems reminiscent of those epic cinematic experiences, and it's a really cool concept. It's also being released on pink vinyl. And if you're interested in music production and how music changes over time as it's developed, then you should check out Anton's YouTube channel, because he actually posted up early versions of the album as he was working on it, so you can kind of listen to that and then compare it to the final product. Raekwon is the latest Wu-Tang Clan member to release an album this year with Fly International Luxurious Art. This is Raekwon's 6th album. There's a lot of guest spots, including A$AP Rocky and Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg actually features on one of my favourite tracks from the album so far, 1212, and I actually think that Snoop sounds better on that than he does on like anything else that he's done recently. It sounds more like his early work, and it's got more of that power behind it. This album was apparently meant to be completed by 2014, but when Wu-Tang Clan came together to work on A Better Tomorrow, it kind of had to be put to the side. But now Raekwon's been able to come back to it and finally finish it, and I'm excited to hear what that finally is. So if the singles that have been released so far are anything to go by, then this is going to be a really good album. Finally, it's Record Store Day this month. There are so many really cool records coming out on Record Store Day this year that I didn't want to pick just one. There's a really great Churches 7-inch that's coming out, and there are some cool records that are being republished. Dusty Springfield, Air, David Bowie. So if you don't know what Record Store Day is, then it's really quite cool. It developed as a concept to support independent record stores. So the idea is there's this one day of the year, which this year is April 18th, when you just have all these limited edition pressings from major artists. They have picture discs, they have specially shaped discs. I think there's a Father John Misty heart-shaped vinyl that's coming out. There's a Who 7-inch coming out, which is coloured to look like the Who logo, that target. And I think the idea is that you have all these like really exciting limited edition cool records coming out, and it gets everyone to figure out where their local record store is, and it gets everyone excited to go there and go out and buy vinyl. And I think it's been credited with a lot of the interest and resurgence in vinyl. It's happening definitely in the UK, it's happening definitely in the US. I don't know if it's happening anywhere else. I will try and find out and put the links in the description, or if you know, then let us know below. I'm also going to put links to all the Record Store Day releases below. Unfortunately, they're different in different countries, which is kind of annoying, but at the same time, it's better for me, I guess, because if there are only 1,000 copies of a certain record coming out, then probably most of them would go to the US, and so there would be like 2 in England. If you like live music that's free, a lot of stores are having bands come play and having big celebrations for it. It's really fun. You will meet a lot of people who also love vinyl. I will be in London looking for vinyl on that day, so if you are also going to be in London, let me know. Like anything, Record Store Day has had a bit of controversy about it. There have been smaller labels that have said that it is clogging up pressing plants, which I understand is a thing, that like a lot of records are being pressed just for one specific day, but maybe that means we should have more pressing plants, because everyone likes vinyl. I think a lot more people like vinyl now than did even 5 years ago. I'm really excited to just go like see the vinyl and hopefully get the ones I want, and you know, meet other people who are as into it as I am. If you like coloured vinyl and you like vinyl more for the sort of visual aesthetic, I think it's quite a good day to go, because there's a lot of limited edition covers, limited edition picture discs, all kinds of fun stuff. So it's more like a celebration of the aesthetic of vinyl than like the hardcore audiophile side. But I think there are also some records being released which have been done from like the original analog tapes and stuff, and remasterings, so that's always fun to check out. So that is everything that I'm looking forward to this month. Be sure to let me know, as always, in the comments what you are looking forward to. Also, let me know if I missed anyone out with Record Store Day coming up. Let me know below what you're thinking of getting, or what you would dream of getting, or if you're watching this video after Record Store Day and you went, be sure to let me know what you got. Also, let me know if you'd like me to review any of these releases. If you hang around till the end of the video, I'm gonna have a link to a playlist that I've made with a single from each of the albums I talked about this month. And bonus question this month, who's your favourite Game of Thrones character? Oh hey, and if you're not already and you would like to be, then be sure to click subscribe for notifications when I make a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
You're wrong.